The Sauna 929 Ultimate and the Angel Twin Gear Juicer. These ultra premium stainless steel juicers represent the pinnacle of juicer design. But which one is right for you? Hi, it's Dan with EUJUICERS.COM, and in this video I'm going to be comparing these two machines. I'll talk a little bit about the background and design of these machines. I'll talk about the value proposition, the cost, the warranty, what's included with each juicer, and what's available as an accessory. I'll look at them up close, show you how they work, how they process juice quite differently. And of course, I will do some juicing. I'll test it with a couple of troublesome ingredients and see how they do. So let's get started. Now, the Angel Juicer design dates back to the 90s. And Angel kind of shocked the juicing world when they introduced this fully stainless steel, super high performance juicer that was getting yields of juice that were really unseen and are unseen to this day. This twin gear technology is really designed and focused on performance above all else. Now, over the years, Angel has made a few incremental changes to the gasket and things like that, but generally this new Angel is almost indistinguishable from the original, and that's not necessarily a bad thing when you start with such a good product. Now, the Angel comes in three versions: the 5500, the 7500, and the 8500, also called the 8500S in some markets. And these three Angels are basically identical. They're definitely identical in performance. They only have two differences between them. The Angel 5500 is your standard Angel juicer. The Angel 7500 adds an auto reverse feature. What that means is if the juicer jams, if I'm feeding a big carrot here and it gets stuck in there, or if some foreign object, a knife or something, gets stuck in there, both the 5500 and the 7500 have a sensor that will stop the motor. Now with the 5500, you need to hold down the reverse button. That will pull anything out there that was stuck. It will drag it in reverse. Then once you've got it cleared out, you hit the start button again. With the 7500, the machine does that automatically. It runs the motor in reverse, stops it, and then goes back forward once it's clear. And the only difference with the 8500 is it's identical to the 7500, except it's made from surgical grade stainless steel. The other two models are made from SU304 food grade stainless steel. What's the advantage of surgical grade stainless steel? Well, it's more corrosion resistant. That means if it's exposed to a lot of humidity, a lot of salts, harsh cleaning chemicals, it will hold up a little better. Practically speaking, you might consider it if you live in an area of high humidity, if you clean your juicer with corrosive chemicals, which you shouldn't, or maybe if you live by the beach, have the windows open a lot, there's a lot of salt in the air. There could be an advantage there to having that surgical grade stainless steel. Now, the Sauna 929 is a much more modern design. It was released in 2024, and Sauna took the approach of using a single auger design versus the twin auger, twin gears in the Angel. Twin gears, Angel was focusing on getting the highest performance, squeezing the most drops of juice out of every piece of produce. A single gear can't match that yield, but Sauna decided to push a single gear technology as far as possible to get the highest yield from a single gear, and in my testing that proves to be true, but also to have ease of use, ease of handling, ease of cleaning, and durability. That's sort of the philosophy they used in their version of the world's ultimate juicer. Now, if you look at this juicer, some people say, well, it's just a Sauna 727 Supreme with stainless steel parts, and that's not true at all. It does have the same form factor as the 727. It has a similar motor. They've taken the 727's industrial grade motor, that BLDC motor, and upgraded it with stainless steel gearing to handle these heavier parts. But the juicing system itself is completely different from the 727. It shares no parts in terms of design or material. A completely different machine. Now, in terms of the value proposition, one thing everyone's going to ask is, well, what's the price of these machines? The price of these machines will depend on where you're watching this, because it's going to vary by region, excuse me, and when you're watching this. I'm filming this in June 2025, and all I can give you is here in Europe, the current manufacturer suggested retail prices of these two machines. The current manufacturer suggested retail price of the Sauna 929 is 1,550 euros. The current MSRP of the Angel 7500 is 1,568 euros. So virtually identical. Now, I will say, anecdotally speaking, The Angel's been around for a long time. We've been selling it since 2008, and we've sold probably thousands of units. You can, there's so many on the market, it's been on the market so long, you can often find a pretty good deal on these. So I encourage you to look around at different sites. Sometimes you'll see discounts, sometimes you'll see retailers throwing in some extra accessories for free. The Sun is new. Typically you don't see it on sale yet. There's not that many out on the market yet. Maybe on Black Friday you'd see it, and maybe you'd find some retailers that will also throw in some additional accessories. But MSRP is virtually identical between these two models. In terms of warranty, there's quite a bit of difference. The Angel has a 3-year warranty on parts and a 5-year standard warranty on the motor. Now again, look at different retailers because some will bump it up. I did a little search this week. I found one manufacturer or one retailer who moved that parts warranty from 3 years to 5 years, and I saw a couple of dealers that bumped the motor warranty from 5 years to 10 years. So again, with Angel, it's worth looking around. The Sun 929 is a lot simpler. They've got a full lifetime warranty, which is kind of an audacious thing, and as far as I know, it's the only one in the industry with a full lifetime warranty both on parts and the motor. Now, that's something to keep in mind, especially if you plan to keep your juicer for a long time. So what comes with each of these juicers? Well, let's start with the Angel 7500. First of all, you have the motor base. This is a big motor in there with an integrated fan to keep it cool and a stainless steel cover. Then you have the juicing parts. I'll get into more detail in the next segment when I describe exactly how these work. You have a wooden pusher. You have a cleaning brush. This is designed to get deep down in there because the Angel has a really long juicing screen, which again we'll see in just a moment. It also has this really handy stainless steel scraper. The Angel is tricky to clean because it has so many holes, and this is really handy to scrape along the top to get impacted pulp out of there. The Angel also includes a juice container and a pulp container. These are BPA-free plastic. Now, the Angel has a lot of optional accessories available. One of them I have here, and this is the silicone pusher. This is a slightly heavier duty. It feels heavier than this one here, even though they're both wood. But the main difference is this silicone ring. And what this does is it gives an airtight seal when you feed. The reason for that is because some produce, if it starts backing up in there, it will start coming up here in the feeding tube, and you might have trouble getting it all into the juicer. With this, it creates an airtight seal, and you can force everything into those twin gears. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't say, our service technician asked me to tell you, if you're using this, please be careful. Do it slowly, because the Angel is a high pressure machine. It's sealed really well, and if you cut off this place where air or juice or pulp can come out, you're creating a really high pressure environment, and over time that can wear out the gasket between the juicing parts and the motor. We see a lot of Angels come in for service. We've sold a lot of Angels, so of course we'll see them come in, and it's usually because of using this, and that pressure over time is wearing down the gaskets, and the juice gets into the seal, through the seal into the motor, and you can have a damaged gearbox or a damaged motor. So again, this is handy. Just be careful if you're using it. Now, other accessories available for the Angel, they have a glass juice container available and a glass stainless steel pulp container available as optional accessories. They have extra screens available as optional accessories. They have a coarse screen available for softer fruit. This comes standard with a fine screen, which is kind of a universal screen, which will do most produce pretty well. But the coarse screen, they recommend for softer things like berries, things like that. They have what's called the mashing screen, and that's a homogenizing or mixing screen for soft things like making hummus or making salsa, things like that. Turns it into a low-speed mixer. They have a nut butter screen if you want to make nut butters, cashew, peanut, almond, things like that. It's a little higher pressure than the mashing screen. And they also have one I've never seen, that's the seed oil screen. It's not a true oil extractor. It's pretty similar in design to the fine screen, and it's specifically designed to make seed oil from sesame seeds or pine nuts. Again, I haven't tried it. I've only watched some videos you can check on YouTube. and C. Also keep in mind those screens, the price for all of them is 199 euros per extra screen in the SU304 food grade stainless steel, and 399 euros if you want to get any of those screens in the surgical grade stainless steel. So now let's take a look at what comes with the Sauna 929. First of all, just like the Angel, you've got the motor housing here, and you have all the juicing parts. Again, I'll go into detail how it works in this next segment. You have a wooden pusher, similar to the Angel. This one doesn't have a silicone seal on it. It's the only pusher available for it. You have this little guy here. This is a juice tap. It's a little removable piece, and this is used to seal the juice outlet. You would use that when you're cleaning the juicer. After you're done, you pop that on and carry it over to your sink. It just keeps it from dripping. You wouldn't use it while juicing to mix things together. You don't want to do that in a horizontal, only in a vertical. It has a glass juice container. It's a tempered glass, and it is 1 liter capacity. It has a stainless steel extra large pulp container, and this just means less time having to stop juicing to go empty the pulp. And some people like to use the pulp for things like dehydrated crackers, muffins, things like that. So if you don't want the pulp to come into contact with plastic, this is a good option. Has 1 cleaning brush here. It doesn't need a scraper or a long brush because, as you'll see in the next segment, the screen that you clean, which is the only part that has to be brushed, everything else for both juicers is just rinsed under running water. It's really much smaller on the Sauna 929. And finally, it comes standard with a fine juicing screen, just like the Angel does. However, Sauna does also include these two here. Here is a coarse screen. This has larger holes, and this is a lower pressure solution for softer produce, for things like pineapple or berries, things like that. As well, it comes with a universal blank screen, and this is used for making anything where you want to homogenize things together. Like with those Angel screens, you can make salsa, hummus, baby food. If you've boiled chicken, you could make baby food out of that. You can make nut milk, nut butters, all sorts of things, which again kind of adds to the versatility of this machine. The only optional part available for the Sauna is their oil extractor. That's their oil extractor that works on all their horizontal juicers, and that completely replaces this juicing assembly. It has its own auger, its own design. It's also stainless steel, and it's designed to get oil from a wide variety of seeds and nuts, and it also makes oatmeal flakes from oats. So these are the parts, the things that come standard with both of these juicers. Now let me take a deeper look at how each of these works, starting with the Angel. So let's talk about the similarities and differences between these two juicers and exactly how they go about processing ingredients and making juice. Similarities, as I've talked about, the price is roughly the same, at least the MSRP. They're both made from SU304 food grade stainless steel. The reason I chose the 7500 as the comparison is because they both have an auto reverse feature. The Sauna has that as well. And maybe what else is similar? They both process ingredients in a horizontal motion. They're both manually fed. These are not batch juicers. You put in a piece of produce 1 piece at a time, in some cases pushing it in with that pusher. And they're both made in South Korea in advanced factories. They're not made in China. So let's look at the Angel now. And what I'll do is disassemble this juicing system and let you see kind of how it works. So the Angel, when I first saw it, looked a little intimidating. The twin gears, it seemed complicated to assemble, disassemble. Actually, it's really simple. Angel's designed it pretty well. This piece here is the splash guard, and strangely enough, this piece is made from SU316 surgical grade stainless steel. So might look a little bit shinier, not sure. But the rest on the 7500 is the food grade stainless steel. So you can see here, this has an integrated drum and screen. It's all one piece. Most juicers have a drum and a screen goes inside. This is all the screen and the feeding tube itself. And you can see here, So many little holes. So it's such a sieve, fine screen sieve here. Far more holes than in a standard horizontal juicer. This is one reason why a twin gear can get so much yield. Basically, the whole drum is a massive screen. So that's great because it gets you more yield. Now the drawback, as we'll see later, is it also means a lot more cleaning, because with both these juicers, they're stainless steel, so all the parts rinse. In some cases you could even put them in a dishwasher, but screens have to be cleaned by hand with those brushes. And in the Angel's case, you've got the brush and you've got that scraper. Angel also offers what they call the premium brush, which is similar to that one toothbrush looking one the sauna has, and I would recommend getting that as well, because there's all sorts of little nooks and crannies here you got to get into, and you want to keep your Angel juicer clean. If you don't clean it right away, it gets harder and the pulp can build up. Built up pulp means less yield, higher pressure, and potentially damage to the juicer. Now, to take it off here, Angel has this nice little release lever. Pop it up, and you can pull off the screen, and here's the star of the show, really, with the twin gear juicer, these solid stainless steel twin gear augers. And you can see when they turn, they counter rotate. They fit in really tight, and this is the other reason why a twin gear juicer can get such high yield. When you're feeding produce into the gears here, it's a tiny, they're so close together, you're almost grinding the produce against these, because these are spinning at 82 RPM. And let's say I've got a carrot that's being pushed here. These are spinning 82 RPM, and it's not cutting pieces off the carrot, but rather it's kind of shredding the carrot. Then it's sending those shredded bits down the auger, and as it goes, it's crushing them even more and squeezing them against all these little holes. Really designed for performance, for maximum juice yield. Now, for some ingredients, it's not so problematic. Carrots, beets, harder things like that. There's a lot of force involved to get that juice. I was just using this a couple of days ago with a bunch of carrots, and with carrots, it could take a lot of pushing, especially if a big piece gets stuck down at the very end, because again, you're sort of shaving this big flat surface. Now with things like celery or greens, it's no problem. Angel does great on those. Feeding's easy because they're softer, they're fibrous, and they get pulled in naturally. It's just with harder, bigger ingredients that it's a little more problematic. Now, these come out, and you'll notice there's two shafts here, but there's only one drive shaft. This motor isn't a dual drive, and there's no need to, because these gears interlock. You just need to turn one gear and it turns the other one itself. This is that gasket area, and Angel has improved this recently to make it a little stronger, but this is where, if you're using that silicone pusher, if you're creating a lot of pressure, this is where juice can sometimes get in there. So again, be careful, make sure to keep this area clean. There's also this area right down here, and you'll notice after juicing, we might see it when I juice and pulp will accumulate down there. And the best way I've found to clean that out is to dab in there with a paper towel, and then once it's dry, kind of brush it out. Now, I do want to mention the motors in both of these juicers, starting with the Angel. The Angel has a big, pretty big motor. It's 180 watts. Watts in terms of slow juicers aren't that important. Watts just measure power consumption, and higher watts generally mean higher RPM. Both of these juicers are running at lower RPM, so that's not so important. But the Angel has an AC motor. It, like I said, 180 watts, runs at 82 RPM, and it has an operating cycle of 30 minutes. Cheap juicers typically have an operating cycle of 15 to 20 minutes, so that's pretty good. Angel recommends after every 30 minutes of juicing, stop the juicer. You can leave it powered on, and it's got a fan in there that'll run for a while and cool it down. If you push it too far, it has a thermal sensor that'll shut down the juicer automatically, and then you just wait. And once it's cooled down enough, you'll be able to turn it back on again. So that's a look at the Angel. Let's take a look at the sauna now. So looking at the sauna, let's start with the motor here. This is a completely different design. Like I mentioned earlier, It's based on the Sana Supreme's motor. That's the Sana 727, which at the time of the release was the most expensive juicer motor out there by about a factor of 2.5, about 2.5 times more expensive than the typical premium juicer motor. It's a BLDC motor. It's 150 watts. One distinguishing characteristic of it is an unlimited operating cycle. As far as I know, it and the Sana 727 are the only juicers on the market with an unlimited operating cycle, which means theoretically you could be juicing 24/7 non-stop. The motor will never get hot. However, practically speaking, of course, you're not going to do that. And of course, both manufacturers recommend stopping juicing after every liter or so of juice, depending on how fibrous the ingredients are, and cleaning the screen, because you can't juice constantly. Screens in both juicers will start getting filled up with pulp. Pulp will start filling up around the auger in the screens. So it's best to stop anyway to clean the juicer, but you could clean this real fast. The 929 cleans in about a minute and go immediately back to juicing, not worrying about things cooling off. The other unique feature of the 929's motor that it shares with the 727's motor is the variable speed. It's got a 4-speed motor. It's 40, 65, 90, and 120 RPM. Those lower RPMs are useful for denser ingredients or leafy greens. Generally speaking, the lower RPMs, the slower it works, you can get just a bit more juice yield than you would at a higher speed. Higher speed's great for really juicy produce, things like oranges, citrus, things like that. You could run it at high speed. Now, some people wonder about the RPMs and oxidation, because you see some juicers, especially some verticals, running around 43 RPM. Really, with either of these juicers, you're not going to see oxidation. You don't have to worry running at 82 RPM, even if you're running at 120. The one thing you might see is with ingredients that are prone to foaming, like pineapple or certain types of apples, the lower speed could be useful to produce a little less foam. That's about it. The biggest benefit I see for the high speed here is when you're using that homogenizing screen, when you're using the juicer as a low speed mixer, when you're making hummus, salsa, or seed butter, like sunflower seed butter or nut butter. It just makes it that much faster. Or with the oil extractor as well, the optional accessory, you can make oil a lot faster running it at that speed 4. Now let's take a look at the juicing parts. This uses, like I said, a whole different juicing system. We've got the performance. We've got the Formula One sports car here, the Ferrari, and here we've got the luxury performance sedan. A little more comfortable to use, maybe not quite as fast or getting the yield as this one here. Maybe a little more durable, at least based on the warranty. So let's look at how this works. First of all, at the very end here, we've got this. This is a pressure cap. It doesn't have to be on for the juicer to run, but I recommend it. And what this does, like I said, Sana's trying to get the most performance out of a single gear juicer as is possible. Try to get as close as you can to a twin gear while still keeping the comfortable use here. What this does is, as you turn it, it's got settings from 0 to 3. It's tightening it up, the juicing chamber. It's sealing the pulp outlet, making it smaller, increasing the pressure. Increased pressure means increased squeezing power. So theoretically, at the maximum level, you'll get a little bit more juice, maybe 5 to 10% than you would at the minimum level or if it was off. Now, why wouldn't you keep it on maximum all the time? Well, with fibrous produce, with celery, pineapple, things like that, that could start backing up if you have it on max. Those fibers aren't able to fit out the little hole I've created. So in that case, you want to keep it a little looser. You take that off. The next piece here, this is just the drum cap. And these, I wish you could feel them. These are really heavy, really solid, especially this auger here. The drum cap has a silicone seal. Again, there's no plastic in contact with either of these juicers with the produce. This is all stainless steel and food grade silicone. And the drum cap just holds everything together. Next we have the screen. This is the fine juicing screen. Like I mentioned, you can also use the coarse screen or the blank screen, which are included. And the fine juicing screen just has the smaller holes, similar to the Angel. But notice how there's much less screen surface here. And that's one reason why a single gear cannot match a dual gear in terms of yield. There's less surface area. But the way this works, let me pull out the auger here. And again, this auger weighs like a kilogram on its own. What you've got here, when you're feeding this juicer, notice in the Angel you're grinding against 2 gears. This you're actually chewing. They're called masticating juicers, which is like a word for chewing. This is actually cutting pieces off. Let's say I'm feeding a carrot. You see these big fins here. As it turns, it's going to chunk off, bite off a piece of carrot, and it's going to send it down the juicing chamber. As the produce goes down the juicing chamber, notice how the shape changes of in the auger. That is squeezing the produce. So for example, if there's oranges in here, they're getting juiced almost entirely even before they reach the end, because oranges are so juicy, and the juice is coming through this strainer and then down the hole. Flows downhill this way. Now with something like carrot, you're getting some of the juice as it's going down, but most of it is being pressed against the screen here. So this isn't really a screen, this is more of a sieve. This is a screen, and it's, instead of shredding and then juicing through the whole drum like here, you're chewing, you're cutting, you're making the pieces smaller, juicing about half of it as it's moving down here, and then juicing the rest against this screen. And like I said, yield is lower, but this small screen is a lot easier to clean than a big screen like here. So pluses and minuses, performance versus ease of cleaning. I can typically clean one of these in about a minute, maybe a bit more if this is really impacted with something like ginger or turmeric. And then removing this, the Angel has this clamp. This has a button. Push in the button, turn it, pull it out. And normally when you're done juicing, you'd pull out the whole assembly. It wouldn't be disassembled like this. You put the little cap here, take this over to the sink, run it under running water, and then scrub the little screen here. So that's a look at how they function. Now let's actually test them out with 2 different kind of troublesome ingredients. So the first thing I'm going to juice is celery. Do that for 2 reasons. First, celery can be a little tricky to juice because of these long fibers in it. And second, because celery is probably the most popular juice these days, at least for people who follow a regular juicing routine. So what I'm going to do here is I will measure out. I have 1 kilogram approximately of celery for each juicer. I want to have it a fair fight here. Let me just make sure. So I will zero out this bowl, and let's put the first group in and see what I got. 997, 997. Okay, so it's just about there. And I'll put that over by the sauna. Now this bowl should be the same, slightly different. Zero out that bowl. Let's see what we got for the Angel. Huh, 997. Okay, so it's a fair fight. So I'm ready to go. Let me get the Angel ready and we'll start juicing. So that's the 1 kilo of celery juice in the Angel. You can hear maybe the fan is still running right now, trying to cool off that big motor. I didn't time it. I suspect it took about 5 minutes. It went easy. Angel is pretty easy with juicing celery. There were a few times when the wider ends, like this, would get stuck against those twin gears, where it would be at like a flat angle, and the pusher couldn't quite get it in. So you just got to give it a little force, maybe hang on, because if you give it too much force, this thing tips forward, but it just tips against the containers. So first of all, one thing I want to show is this pulp. This is what the Angel specializes in. This is the driest pulp you will ever see. This is super dry. Those twin gears and that big juicing area really maximize the amount of juice squeezed out of it. And what I'd also do now is I've got this graduated cylinder because that's more accurate than trying to estimate from these containers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand up and hope I don't spill it, and let's see how much juice there is in here. Looks like, I would say, 855. So that's quite a good result. 855, that's an excellent result. Typical juicer might get around 500 to 600 milliliters. But again, twin gears, that massive screen space gives it a big advantage. All right, so that's the Angel. Now let's try it out with the Sauna. All right, now we'll try it on the Sauna. One thing I want to point out is the Sauna glass also comes with this sieve, so if you want the most pulp-free juice, you can put that on. I won't be using that here. And I'll probably run it around speed 2 or 3, and with the pressure dial, I'm going to monitor that as I juice it. I'll start out with it at max, but I'll probably loosen it up as I go along just to let the pulp flow a little more freely. So that's all the celery. I'm letting the motor run just a few more seconds to get the last bit of pulp out. At the end here, I opened the pulp cap just to help get the last bits of celery fiber out of there. Take a look at the pulp. You'll notice this pulp is definitely more moist than it was in the Angel. That's just a twin gear versus a single gear. But probably as far as single gear juicers go, this is about as dry a pulp as you'll see. And now, let's see what we got. Like I said, the Angel had 855. Typical slow juicer will have 5 to 6. And let's see how this guy does. For me, it's trickier to pour with this spout, but let's... Okay, good. And we've got straight up 760. So again, like I said, twin gears are always going to get the maximum amount of juice. Juicing here was pretty easy. I didn't have to push. It pretty much pulled everything in there. And I kept it around speed 2. And yeah, so okay, what's this, 760? Yeah, that's quite good from 1,000 grams for a single auger juicer, probably the best you can get. So both of these, being stainless steel, are quite easy to clean in terms of the main parts. The only tricky part is cleaning the screens, because like I said, those you need to scrub. So what I want to do is take a look at both of those. With the Angel, the celery juiced really clean. If you can see that, it's got a huge amount of screen real estate, lots of holes, but most of them are pretty clear. Celery juices well in both of these juicers. Let's just pop it open and see. Well, it's kind of stuck. You know what? A friend of mine who owns an Angel told me a tip. He said to run it in reverse while you're trying to pull it off, because the augers get kind of stuck in there and they'll come out with a whole screen. There we go. It spurted out a bit of juice, but that's okay. So you can see there's some celery fibers, not much in there, and I'm not concerned about that. That rinses off super fast. And on the screen itself, it's pretty clear. This, what you do is You go through all the way in to get those celery bits at the end. And then you'd use this scraper here to get these kind of tricky corners and stuff, and to get in like in here. That can be tricky to clean in there, and this part right here. Again, I recommend that premium Angel brush, but this will help. And figure, I don't know, it takes me 5-6 minutes to clean an Angel, depending on what I'm juicing. Again, celery juice is pretty clean. Let's look at the sauna. I'm going to pull out the screen as well. And you can see a little bit of fiber in there, not much. And the screen is here. You can wipe most of that off. And then you would use the sauna's brush to just clean those holes there. Again, this takes me typically just about a minute. These parts you're just going to throw in the sink. You put that plug here, take the unit off, throw it all in the sink. That just rinses, and then scrub this. With this one, you got to be a little careful. I don't know if you can see down here. This is an issue, again, my friend told me about with the Angel. I'm going to pull these out and show you. You see this is, it's held on by this collar, this locking collar, and the juice, when you remove it, does tend to go down into there, and it accumulates there. And the best way to get that out, in my experiences with the paper towel, just soak it all up, sop it up till you got all that juice, and then go in with a brush and brush it out. A lot of the Angels we see that come in for service, they're always really dirty right down there. But you can also tip the unit upside down, but it's a pretty heavy machine. But that gives you an idea. Figure around, let's say 5 minutes to clean the Angel, about a minute for the sauna. But again, remember the Angel made a lot more juice too. So I'm going to clean things up and come back with my second ingredient. So the other ingredient I want to test today is pineapple. Pineapple can be troublesome. It has a high juice content, but it also has a high fiber content. Now, normally with pineapple, you would want to use a coarse screen. But since the Angel comes standard with the fine screen, I'm going to use the fine screen, see how it goes. To keep things fair, I'm using the fine screen as well in the sauna, just so it's an even match. What that means is most likely a lot of that soft pulp will back up on one or the other juicer. I'll probably loosen this pressure control on the sauna to max. And like I said, normally you would want to use a coarse screen, but that's an extra 199 euros or 399 for the surgical grade over here. It is included here, but let's keep it a fair fight and let's get started. 1,000 grams in each bowl. All right, so got a lot of juice. Let's look at the pulp. Definitely going to be very dry pulp, as far as you can for pineapple. I mean, it's moist, but I guarantee it'll be more moist on the 929 on the single auger. So it's a little problematic, as you could see. I probably would recommend, if you're going to do pineapple, if you mix it, if you make a pineapple carrot juice, for example, that'll help a lot because the carrot's firm and that'll push through these soft pineapple fibers. Coarse screen would really be the way to go, and just feeding it slowly. Smaller pieces of pineapple would help too. I noticed near the end I had one longer piece and it overflowed. It couldn't handle the foam. I wouldn't worry so much about the foam. Pineapple foams naturally. We'll get foam on the 929 as well. So what I want to do is clean my hands off because I got juice and foam all over me, and see how much juice we got from 1,000 grams, or what was it, 998 I believe this one was, of pineapple. I don't have a spoon, so I'm just going to messily scoop out with my hand some of this foam. Don't worry, I washed my hands earlier. And let's see. It's mostly foam there, so let's... It's a beautiful color. 715. Let's say maybe 725, because when that foam goes down, it's going to raise the juice level. Those bubbles, mostly air, but there's a bit of juice on the perimeter of them. So I'm going to clean this up, and then I'm going to start on the 929. All right, so now let's try the pineapple on the 929. Again, to keep the playing field equal, I did not put the coarse screen in there. It's got the fine screen. I'm going to run it. I'll start it at speed 2, and I'm going to keep this pressure around between 1 and 2 on a scale of 0 to 3. So let's see how it goes. So that went a lot easier than the Angel, obviously. That you see some foam there, but nothing at all backed up. Seemed fine with the fine screen. I was able to put the pressure dial on the maximum, and just at the very end I like to open it up to help the last of the pulp get out. It just means a little less pulp, because both these juicers will have a lot of pineapple pulp wrapped around the auger. That's just how it works. So again, the juicing's easier, but the yield will be lower. Let's see what we got from 1,000 grams of pineapple. Again, something you'd expect in a typical juicer, around 500 milliliters, maybe a little more. Pineapple's pretty juicy, but again, tough to juice and problematic, and generally creates a lot of foam, but I didn't get much foam in this one. All right. So I am at, I'd say 745, let's say with the foam, maybe 750, 755, once that foam pops and goes down. Let's say 750, and what was the Angel? I said around, it was 815, but about 825 with the foam. So not a bad showing, actually. Again, you're not matching the twin gear, but a really easy juicing experience. Went fast, they almost self-fed. There was absolutely no backup and no foam to speak of. All right, so I'm going to clean this up, and then I want to take a look inside on this and the Angel, just to see how the screens look regarding the cleaning of these. All right, I have a correction to make. Fortunately, my cameraman was on top of things and looked at the footage. I was wrong when I said the Angel did, what did I say, 840, 850. We rolled back the footage. I see it did 715, and I thought with foam 725. Actually, watching this one as time goes by, it actually lowers, because the top layer is sort of mixed in with the foam, and this one is lowered now to around 730. So it actually got a higher result. So let's say 730 here after the foam settled and it went down. This was 715 before the foam settled, so this one was probably closer to 700, I would say. So surprising. Normally twin gear is going to outperform a single gear, probably because it was having some difficulty. Maybe if they both had a coarse screen, maybe we'd see a better result there. Either way, it's a lot of juice from 1,000 grams of pineapple. I want to take a look again and see how both juicers fared in terms of how the screen looks. So again, on the Angel, there's some impacted pineapple fibers in there. Not a whole lot. Again, it'll probably take 4 or 5 minutes to clean. With the celery, I said it's probably going to take about 5 minutes to clean. I brought it over between shots, and it ended up taking me about 4 minutes. So it wasn't so bad. Those celery fibers came out pretty easily with that stainless steel scraper. What I'd also like to do now is look and see how the augers look. And yep, got to hold down reverse to get this thing off. Oh, I'm powered off. There we go. Yeah, pretty clear inside. You know, again, I'd say maybe this one's going to be closer to 5 minutes, only because pineapple's a little trickier to clean. It's kind of sticky. I feel it on my fingers now. You see there's some in here, not much, you know, and there's the pulp there. It's kind of typical. So again, let's figure around 5 minutes. And again, don't forget to mop up the juice and pulp that falls down here when you take the cover off. Now I want to check out the sauna, see how the screen looks there. I expect, since it's the fine screen, it's going to be pretty impacted. And there's a bit of juice coming out. Let's take a look. Really no fibers around the auger. You see there is some in here, just some pulp still in there. And taking a look at the screen, again, maybe a minute, maybe a little longer to scrub this out, only because, again, pineapple's kind of slimy and sticky and takes a little longer to scrub out. So I'm going to clean it up and we'll conclude with some final thoughts. How did I think both of these juicers fared? So they're all cleaned up. Some concluding thoughts. I think it kind of goes back to that analogy I made earlier. You're looking for a sports car with the absolute top speed, besides pineapple, I guess. The Angel might be the choice for you. You want that luxury sedan that goes fast, but not quite as fast, but gets you there more comfortably. Maybe the Sauna 929 Ultimate is the juicer for you. Things to keep in mind, again, yield generally will be higher here. User experience, more comfortable here. Warranty much longer here. The more modern design, more durability, that can be a plus. Then again, the Angel's been around for a long time, so there's a lot of experience out there. One thing, speaking of experience, that would be useful for me and for other users is if you have experience with either of these juicers, positive or negative, please take the time, if you can, and write a comment below this video. I would really appreciate it, and so would other people who are watching this video. I hope you found this video useful. I hope the information will help you if you're considering buying either of these machines. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Dan with EUJUICERS.COM, and I'll see you next time.